Thank you. Okay, we're good to go. We'll call this Committee of the Whole, April 24th, to order. And I would like to acknowledge that we are holding this meeting on the unceded lands of the Mi'kmaq. Attendance, everyone's here. Any declarations of conflict of interest right up front? Okay, you can declare at the time of the agenda item. And approval of agenda. Any additions or deletions, anyone? Oh, yes.
There is one addition that was circulated earlier today. It's regarding the Mariner Center, ice pad replacement.
Okay, so I got that under 11A. Anything else, anyone? Okay, motion to approve the agenda with the addition. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, so we have senior safety presentation. Come on up. And then I think all you have to do is press the bar and you're on, so you can introduce yourselves and off you go. Perfect. Welcome.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for inviting us to present to you today. It's a pleasure to be here to share the work of senior safety. My name is Ashley Rhino. I'm the Senior Safety Coordinator for the Municipality of the District of Yarmouth. And I've got my colleague here, Amber Boudreau. She's the Municipality of Argyle Senior Safety Coordinator. And I've got Staff Sergeant Lutz here as well with us today. So thank you for having us. So senior safety, in a little bit of a nutshell, is we work to support seniors living at home safely with education on around scam and fraud prevention, crime prevention, elder abuse. And we do it from a preventative and an intervention lens. So a lot of the preventative work we see is our community presentations, working with community groups. There's a number of activities that happen throughout the year that we partake in to help kind of put in that preventative work in hopefully in preventing people from falling victim to a fraud or scam or getting services before it's too late. The intervention piece is our home visits. And the home visits are really the bread and butter of our program, and they're what make our program unique to other areas. And home visits can range from, 5 minutes to several hours, and they can happen as frequently as needed or as required to support the individual. And it's really about building trust with that individual so we can in turn support them where they're at. And it's seeing the individual for who they are and the needs that they are required to have met. The home visits typically, obviously, happen in their homes. Sometimes people are not comfortable meeting us in their homes for the first time. So we will meet them in our office or somewhere where they're comfortable on common grounds in a public area. Typically that happens once, and then they feel comfortable with us and we build a relationship with them, and then we meet them in their homes. Those home visits can just be a friendly check-in until they get comfortable to disclose. It could be to walk them through, they've fallen victim to a fraud or scam. So it can be to walk them through that process, what that looks like. If their social insurance number has been compromised, it's helping them work through that system, navigate that system. It could be connecting them to other services in the community that will support them living home independently and safely, like home care. It could be a connection to adult protection. It could be a connection to RCMP. They're very broad, but they're very, very important. Seeing is believing. It makes a difference when you can actually go to somebody's house and physically see the environment that they're living in, and helps us assist them on a better. We also have the education around the frauds and scams prevention and elder abuse. That is usually done in conjunction with the RCMP. So typically when we're going out to do a presentation, we bring them along with us, and they are one of our key partners. And we also will assist RCMP on calls involving seniors. So that's another important piece. Our funding comes from 3 different places. So Amber and I are both municipal employees, and we're both supported wholly by our councils and by the municipality. So we are funded fully through our salaries through the municipality and our benefits package. We also get a small pocket of money from the province, $25,000, that helps with our day-to-day expenses. So it affords us the ability to go to people's homes. It helps with the costs surrounding the presentations, things like that. And then we have an in-kind partnership with the RCMP that allows us to be housed within the RCMP detachment. And that covers all of our office supplies, all of, the day-to-day. It gives us access to the administration there. And it also means that we are security cleared on an enhanced reliability level, gives comfort to us, and it gives comfort to our seniors as well. What we don't do, we are not an emergency service, and we are not adult protection, and we do not offer legal or medical advice. We are totally separate. So the types of referrals that we're seeing and have seen, we're in the 13th year of our program. So the types of things we're seeing, we have requests for service navigation. So how to navigate the service, how to work with seniors, connections within our community, whether it be, to Continuing Care or Split Rock or the Women's Center, all those connects. We're seeing elder abuse, frauds and scams referrals. We're seeing people that just need somebody to check in on them. We're seeing food and heat insecurity, mental health, people living at severe risk. We're seeing homelessness. We're seeing it all. And we get referrals from anybody. RCMP, our counselors, our counterparts, our peers, community referrals, families, individuals themselves can refer. We won't say no to a referral. Hospital staff, doctors, social workers, anybody. Our timeline to work with somebody is not, we can work with somebody once and we can follow that person from the time of referral till the time they're put into a place of safety if they're not safe. So in a long-term care or a place where their needs are met, or until they pass away. There's no, 3 visits and you're done. We're there as long as they allow us to have us there. And we are not first responders or emergency services, and our services go beyond the crisis. So you will often see, EHS, RCMP to go in on that crisis, and then we can go in after and support them so that they don't get to that crisis level again. And we help bridge the gap. We help bridge the gap between community and government services, between community and community services. We try and make that transition as smooth as possible. Our RCMP relationship is extremely important, and it's really what makes our program unique in what we do and how we do it. And it keeps both us, the coordinators, safe, and the seniors that we work with safe. And I think I can't stress that enough. So if Amber and I get a referral and we're not sure where we're going, or if we're uncomfortable in that environment, we can have a conversation with our staff sergeant, we can have a conversation with a member in the detachment, and they'll say, you're good to go, maybe you should go together, maybe you should bring a member, and we've got that security. Sometimes showing up with a member makes a difference, because they see that uniform service, and it just helps us get in the door, and then we continue to build that trust. And it provides the ongoing support beyond that first 911 call, or beyond that first encounter with the RCMP. And it allows the RCMP the capacity to focus on criminal matters, while senior safety focuses on the follow-up needed from the initial response. And it allows the RCMP works with the general population, where ours is very senior focused. And I think Staff Sergeant Luce can speak a little bit more to that. So.
Well, I was asked to speak because I've also worked county for many years and Meteghan, both that have senior safety coordinator positions. And I've spoke to council, the Clare Council, about the position and the benefits of the position up in Meteghan when I was there. I think Ashley covers relationship building as the fundamental component here. And I think that's important to keep the trust and the importance of that in mind when we're talking about this position, because I know it comes to mind, why can't the community police victim service position here in town, cover this aspect? And it cannot, because essentially the position has a lot of tentacles. We have many focuses here for the RCMP. We've got human trafficking. We've got, just looking at the stats, assaults, intimate partner violence, which is a highlight right now in the province. Those are the capacities that are being asked of this position, the one that is in town. Ashley's position is proactive, and it's the aftercare that she's going to really focus on. And I think we need to keep that in mind, that as much as the high-risk portions are something to keep mindful of, this is not the bread and butter of their job. The bread and butter of their job is going in there, making the visits before it becomes something that we have to respond to. Really knowing the community, knowing the seniors in the community at a level that one person in a detachment isn't going to be able to do, and relationship building, because I've seen with the senior safety coordinator in Meteghan, she was in charge of making sure that the senior would have her medical alert or her Medicare, all of her essentials visible for if and when EHS would have to attend. So, all those little details, having those relationships with the seniors is something that I think we have to keep in mind when we're thinking of this position, and the time that it's going to take with seniors, because coming in a uniform to a residence and, going in, it can be great, it can get you through the door, or it can do the opposite. It can actually inhibit someone from really getting into the meat and potatoes, because seniors sometimes think they're going to get in trouble, or there's going to be some sort of, they might have to leave their home if they're honest, and all of these things that I think the relationship that this team or the coordinators have with the seniors is really going to highlight. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I'll also speak briefly. Our program has historically gotten referrals from the town of Yarmouth. And I have provided council today with the numbers over the last 4 years of what those have looked like, and a little bit of a breakdown of where those referrals have come from. Why don't we have more? And that's because people know the program doesn't exist in the town of Yarmouth currently, as it stands. It's also, there was at one point in time when the program first started, there was lots of referrals that came from the town of Yarmouth. And over time, they've realized that it's not provided there. If somebody is reaching out to us from the town of Yarmouth, it is out of desperation and kind of a last resort. They don't know where to turn. They're struggling. Ethically, it's hard to walk away from that when somebody is struggling. So we do what we can from the confines of our office. We will assist our CMP at times if they're struggling and they're not sure what to do. We'll absolutely go in. There has been times I've had referrals from the town that situation maybe could have been prevented if the services had been put in place years prior. So it's compounded by a lot of things, but we do receive referrals. So if you look, I've had 7 this year alone. Out of that 7, I've seen 5 in the last month. So there's been a big uptake. And then if we go back further, we've seen years that are, in 2024, there was 13 between the two of us. In 2023, there was 17 between the two of us. And in 2022, there was 9 for the municipality of Yarmouth. I didn't have the stats for Argyll. And that's people knowing the service doesn't exist. So I'm open to any questions that council has. And once again, thank you so much for allowing us to share the work we do. It's truly a privilege to do the work that we do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you very much for what you do. I kind of have a couple of questions. The first one, and it's to both of you, is overall, like I see the referrals for the town of Yarmouth, but how many overall are you seeing on a regular basis? How many clients do you have?
So referrals will fluctuate. I will say that I personally sit a client caseload any given time between 100 and 150 people and that will fluctuate. Out of that number, probably a good quarter of them are high risk that I'm seeing on a regular basis that need regular intervention. Do you know where your caseload sits? Okay, so, and Amber would see similar at times as well.
Okay. Second part of the question is, and it's an opinion piece, do you believe that there is a need for an officer like you or a person like you here in Yarmouth, in the town?
Absolutely. It is a question I get asked on almost a weekly basis, if not a daily basis.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Go ahead.
I'm just looking at the Viola Life program and wondering, I know is this something that you're doing locally or is it something that exists provincially?
So the Viola Life was originally established by the VON. It's a VON program. It is something that our program took on 13 years ago when we created it, or when we started, and it is available to anybody. We will typically go into homes and fill them out with our clients. We have historically not said no to residents of town. They're just responsible to fill out their own vials and keep them updated.
I guess my question on that would be if somebody in town, like my mother, for example, I think it's a great program, but how could she get started on that? Like if she, I guess to get the vial and fill the information out, she could do that work or I could help her or whatever, but can she contact somebody to get that or is it the VON or?
So we have them in our office, so we maintain all the supplies in our office. So if somebody from the town would like one, they could call our office and we will leave it at the detachment for them to pick it up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Not a question. That was a fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Lots of information. Thank you so much for coming in and doing that.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yep. I want to echo, I guess, Councillor Kelly, and say thank you for the presentation, all of you, for the information you've shared. I do have a question. It's about the service itself and the scope of the service and the standards for the service. Is there something that you receive from the province, or is that something that the municipality has created, or can you speak to that?
So the province gives us, like I said, that small pot of money every year, and there is some stipulations that go with that pot of money. I can't speak to them today because I don't have them in front of me, but I can certainly get those to you. It does. And otherwise, our job descriptions are created and administered by the municipality. You're welcome. I will also briefly say that I didn't give you more stats today because they don't represent the work that we do. As I said, a home visit can be 5 minutes or it could be 5 hours. And whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours, it's still recorded as one visit. Or a referral can be a one-time referral, or it can go on for years. So it's really hard in that to get the quality of the work we do in a quantitative stat. But I do have more stats available if they're wanted.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the engagement or the relationship with the senior, as you say, can be a one-time or it can be for the rest of their lives, I guess. So
Absolutely.
how do you determine that? Is that based on them continuing to reach out and invite engagement, or how does that work?
So they're driving the bus. They if they only want to see me once, and I will say 99% of the time, that is not the case. Seniors are lonely and they are isolated and they are thankful for the visit. So typically, that is not the typical, that it's a one and done. Essentially, sometimes it is. I go in, 3 or 4 visits does the trick, and that's it. But I have clients that I have now that I started seeing when I took this position 6 years ago, and before that, Doris was seeing them for several years, and that relationship is ongoing. But they, at any point, can say, Ashley, I don't want to see you again, and I say, okay. And I respect their wishes. And we obviously have a conversation about that, but they really are determining how much they want to see us.
So are you finding yourselves having to cross lines like mental health helps, things like that really need to be taken care of by the healthcare system? But you find
see it.
yourself in it. Of course you see it.
We absolutely see it. And we navigate within the confines of what we're able to navigate. So generally with mental health comes a myriad of other issues, and it's not just mental health. So there are issues that we can support with. We have gotten people to mental health services. We have gotten them, they're calling us sometimes and they're desperate and they have no idea where to go. So we help them navigate that system. And I wouldn't say we're crossing lines. I think we're working within the confines of our scope to be able to support them where they're at.
I suppose you can't cross the line.
Right.
I guess and so that's why I was trying to say, do you feel like you have to often? In other words, for the work that you do, are you finding that you have the helps you need when you have to say this is where you need to be?
Yes and no.
Okay,
Yes and no.
all right, fair enough. Fair enough. Anyone else? Excellent. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Ooh. I just have a question with regards to the interface between the RCMP and the seniors coordinators. Because our contract is different than the 2 rural contracts. So I'm just trying to understand what that interface would look like, because we have a community liaison position within the RCMP here in town, and it's my understanding that because of our contract, that community liaison position is not dedicated to just the victims of crime, but it is available to be used for vulnerable people, whether they've been the victim of a crime or not. And so I'm just trying to get a sense of what it would look like. Who would the senior safety coordinator report to, and how would that work with our community liaison position should it be filled?
I think it would be something that would have to be discussed with the municipality, the town, how that would actually, like an SOP of some sort. But in relation to working together with the RCMP and the community policing position, yes, they do work with, they have historically worked with the senior safety coordinator positions. But it cannot be the primary focus. So these home visits that I was speaking to before are regular home visits, and that position wouldn't have the time or the capacity to really focus on the issues at hand. So that's where I was going with. It would definitely be, they work in conjunction with each other. And the calls for service, they're identified by the officer when they're high risk. We would, and she has, and their office has, at times assisted us, but we would definitely use the referral more often. We're not really, it's not really their primary focus, the town. So And we know that, so we really don't do that. But in terms of how, that would be managed, it would be something that we would discuss with when this actually, if it does come to fruition, the SOP of who talks to who. But essentially, I think they would work in conjunction with each other as they typically do. And the commander, myself, would have discussions on, engagement and how that would flow.
Good. Go ahead.
So, just so I understand this, the community liaison officer and a senior coordinator, their responsibilities would not overlap. They would be supportive of one another when needed, but there would not be an overlapping of services.
Define overlap.
Could the community liaison officer do what a senior coordinator does?
There's parts of it, like you just said,
Yeah.
that they do, but in terms of home visits, regular home visits,
Right.
the relationship building that needs to be established, there's just not the time or the capacity to do that.
Thank you.
Good. Oh, I can barely see that.
Thank you. And I guess I'm going to ask for your opinion. Do you believe, or can you project, do you think, because the town makeup is a different thing than the municipalities where people are living in rural areas and very often in their own homes alone. Do you have any sense of how many calls for service there might be in the town of Yarmouth? Or is that just too difficult to project?
So I had a conversation with one of my community partners today that services both the town and municipality. That partner was a housing tenant relations coordinator. They have 9 housing buildings dedicated to seniors with over 200 apartments in those buildings. This morning, she told me that out of those apartments, she could, off the top of her head, without looking into it really further, there would be 20 referrals.
Okay.
I absolutely think, and knowing the calls that we've gotten and knowing the complexity of what those calls look like, I absolutely think there is a need, there is a want based off of what people have told us, and there's a desire for it. And I hear that often from many people, whether it be a senior individual themselves, whether it be a community partner, whether it be a family member, a friend. There is a need, and I think there would be a want for it.
Okay, and the second part of that, and once again, I'm asking your opinion. Do you feel that you have the capacity between the two of you to provide services to the town of Yarmouth, say on a contractual basis, or do you think that there's enough desire out there or need out there for there to be a separate coordinator?
I can't speak to the desires of my employer and how they would feel about that. Knowing that I carry a regular caseload between 100 and 150 active clients, I would say I do not have the capacity
Okay,
to
thank you.
take on another county.
I think our numbers would be way higher. That would be my guess,
I think so.
because of the demographic.
And that number fluctuates.
Yeah, of course.
And obviously, people move on, people pass away, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess this is maybe a little redundant, but the study that Jeff and Lindsay had conducted to see if we needed one would support that we need one. That was our finding, right?
Thank you. Go ahead, Derek.
The 25,000 from the province, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, and I don't know if anybody does in the room, but is that 25,000 divided, is it divided between the two of you? So if we come on
Yes.
board, it would be divided 3-way at this point, or?
I would
No, we'd have our own.
encourage
separate?
you to reach out to ask to the province. I know that there are other coordinators in the province, that there is 2 in one county, and they do each have their own pocket of money. Right now, Amber and I share that pocket of money. I don't know if the same would happen with the town, but I can certainly get you the province contact to ask that question.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, just, something you said raised a question in my mind. So if I thought I heard you say early in the presentation that this was the service to support seniors to be living independently. And I then heard you say later on that something about seniors in public housing. Now, there are some public housing buildings that are supported in certain ways, but does that in any way, are they still eligible for the service under the parameters that you?
They absolutely are. So the seniors' public housing buildings are standalone apartments. There's just multiple apartments in one building, anywhere between 10 to 36, 30. So they still live within their own apartment. They still have the bills. It's not a boarding home. It's not a long-term care facility. It's very different. It is seniors living in apartments, and they absolutely would qualify for the service.
I just know there are some other kinds of services that are provided by the Housing Authority, but that clarifies the question. Thank you.
Very different, for sure.
Okay, we good? All right. Well, thank you very much, all
Thank you.
three of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for what you're doing out there. That's a heavy load. It is. Okay, so we are at, okay, so staff reports. CAO is here. Any questions for the CAO? Okay. Fire department, the chief is here. I heard a rumor, there's a truck. I heard a rumor there's a truck. Any questions for the chief? We're good? That was easy. Operations, Chad's here. When do we start painting, when do we paint sidewalks and, little yellow lines and stuff like that? Because people don't know how to draw. Yeah, crosswalks and yellow lines on corners and things like that. Plug your ears, Derek. Yeah. Oh, just hit the button there.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
Generally, end of June, July is when we start.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So up here at the Blueberry Fields, and I'm probably the only one that feels like this. It's not the corner. People just don't know how to draw it.
Well,
Like
there's a decision pending on that.
Yes.
Like there is currently there's no markings, but there's been a request to investigate
Yeah.
whether or not markings are warranted.
Okay.
Yeah. In the meantime, the bylaw enforcement officer is advising some customers and ticketing some cars.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sent him up this week. I told him to take a peek.
Yep.
I asked him. No, how do I say that without saying I directed to staff? Just don't say it. I thought it would be a good idea, if he went for a walk up there.
Yep.
But yeah, okay. I said to Jeff this week, we spend an awful lot of money on things because people just can't follow the rules. I don't know how else to say it and
Well, a lot of
try
the
to
rule-
be polite.
A lot of the rules that apply in that situation are in the Motor Vehicle Act, so
Yeah,
the general
absolutely.
public don't know
Yeah.
the rules. And
Yeah.
I don't until I look them up, frankly.
But you must know not to park on a corner or in front of a fire hydrant,
True.
right?
That's true,
It's
yeah.
common sense.
Yeah, yeah.
But, so in the meantime, it costs us time and money to go out there and fix
Yeah.
stuff because people can't. Yeah, sorry. No, I'm not sorry. Okay, who's next? Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. And only because you raised it. I was approached by a taxpayer the other day, just 2 days ago, in Sobeys, who was complaining about the Blueberry Fields, in particular the parking. And he was concerned because he's almost had a collision himself by people trying to get by cars when somebody opened their door. And he actually said he witnessed one accident not too long ago. So I did encourage him to voice those concerns to you. And he said he would also drop in and see you, Your Worship. So,
That'd be lovely.
yeah, anyway.
Who opens their car door without check?
Yeah, it's somebody that just was getting out of their car. It was an elderly lady getting out of her car.
But you're getting out of your car on Main
Yeah.
Street without checking to see if something's coming.
It happens. Anyway, they were concerned about, they feel, as I do, and I've
Yeah.
expressed this in the past, they feel that portion of the roadway is too narrow to accommodate parking on both sides. But that's my opinion. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you. Go ahead.
That's a great lead into my question. Has there been any idea or thought behind maybe only making parking on one side of the road? Because I do feel when you come there, like sometimes if a big truck's there, you feel like your mirror is going to hit, and regardless of lines or anything we do, the road's not any wider. So I'm just wondering if that was any thought.
There is actually, so some of our preliminary findings, we've discovered that the center line's not actually in the center of the roadway. So if we shift the center line, it may sort of equal out the parking on either side, but technically the roadway is wide enough to accommodate 2 lanes of travel and 2 park lanes. So, but we can put all the signs and paint markings we want. It's not going to prevent people from, carelessly opening up their doors and not being vigilant with regards to traffic.
Derek?
You're not going to hear this from me often, but because I'm all about paint, I guess. But I was actually challenged to look at the sides of the road and compare it to the downtown, because I as well feel that when I drive by, it feels crowded. And I think after I looked at it, it's as wide, if not wider than the downtown. And I think the difference maybe is that we're not used to having cars in that spot. So it's creating something new in a spot that typically I think people are driving a little faster in. But I didn't believe it at first. I thought it feels so narrow going through there. But it's actually, I think, much wider than it is downtown, or considerably wider. So, I mean, it can work downtown with parking, and I think it could there, but I also hear the concerns from the citizens that they feel something needs to be done. But I do think it's probably connected with it being a new thing and people not used to it, I think.
Go ahead.
And just to comment that for that very reason is why we lowered the speed limit in the downtown core. And I don't know if that's an option or not. I mean, go to Lockport, it's 30 kilometers an hour in the entire town.
Yeah.
So, but
Exactly.
yeah, it is likely it's more dangerous because of the speed of the traffic. But anyway, I'll leave it at that.
No, it's a good point, because all we'd have to do is move the sign. Although, I know we're not Halifax, and people will say, we're a small town, we're not the city. But it doesn't matter where you go in any town. There's roads that are cramped. I mean, I go up Chestnut, well, Kelly, you too, we go up Chestnut Street, and how many times do I think, oh, here comes a car, I got to pull over. I don't have to pull over. If I know what I'm doing, I'm just, there's room. There's always been room. When I've had the courage and said, it's just me feeling like I need this much room. So I understand safety issues, and this is just my opinion, because I respect what everyone's saying. We also have to learn that with a growing town comes changes. Like you can't put a crosswalk on every corner. You can't put the request for street lights over. I mean, it's hard to you have to match safety, which is what you do, because you do those studies, which is probably the most important, because if we put something everywhere somebody's been asking, you can walk 10 feet without a crosswalk, because everybody wants a crosswalk where they are. And it's dangerous, but it's dangerous. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but it's dangerous because you can't walk out with your cell phone and your head down and cross the street without even looking. And if you got a crosswalk coming, you need to, maybe we just need to, in the tax bills, we just need to say, you're going to have to take driver's ed again. I'm probably in trouble already. Go ahead, Cal.
So is it feasible to possibly center that line and to slow it down, like Gil said? Makes sense.
I think altering the center line to the center of the roadway makes sense. I don't know why it was misaligned for all these years. We can look at reducing speed limit, but I would suggest 50 is a fairly adequate speed limit for that area, but I would suggest people are probably exceeding that. So maybe we need to ramp up enforcement for a while before we start changing speed limits. Just a suggestion.
I agree with that, too. So do we actually have a line?
Yeah, there's I think either a single yellow line or a solid double.
All right. I guess I'm thinking, you know what? That nice bright white line, like you're going to stay on the side of that. And if it was even, but anyway, it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for, oh, I'm sorry.
Just one final comment, because I just came back from a trip from the city, and one of the roadways in Sackville, and this will go over like a lead balloon here in town, I'm sure, but one of the streets in Sackville that goes from along, it's the old Sackville Drive, I think, has traffic commerce. And so you go so far, and then there's a light little hump that's just enough to slow you down that you're not going to go charging through there at 60 kilometers. Probably snowplow drivers would hate them, I would think. But anyway, on this particular road, there's at least 4, I think, in about a half a kilometer stretch. And they're very effective.
For a certain demographic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much, Your Worship. On a different topic, but I noted that there was a request for a crosswalk on Albert at Green Street.
Yes, yeah.
That didn't come from us, did it?
No,
Okay.
it came directly to me.
Okay. I'm just
Yeah.
curious. So I note that there is not a sidewalk on the north side of Albert, but there is a sidewalk that goes down Highland, and maybe that might have been the reason. I don't know, but I don't think it's warranted. My own personal opinion, living in the area.
Yeah. There was an incident. There was an incident. A pedestrian was struck as they crossed the street. So a concerned citizen brought it to me.
Good enough. Okay, just wanted to know. And it's your opportunity to put a plug in for the compost facility. I noticed that there's been some brisk business out there, and it's that time of year, so we've got lots of compost to sell.
We do, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Certified.
Go ahead.
On another subject, really, it's nice to see those bus numbers.
Yeah.
And as I look, I see a couple of incidents, and I'm not trying to create controversy here, far from it, but a couple of times that the bus was actually full enough that they had to refuse a couple of people in a couple of incidents. So I find that exciting and kind of wonderful to see that what we're doing is reaping its rewards, and it's pretty exciting. So that's a good one. Thank you.
Yep.
Good. Thanks, Chad. We know you're not busy in the spring, but, you know.
Pretty slow.
Okay, planning, and Natalie's away. Engineering, DeMario's here. Any questions for DeMario? Go ahead.
I don't have a question for DeMario, but I'd just like to say Natalie's been very busy over the last little bit, and her whole crew of people outside of the public meetings we have, the new housing possibilities that seem to be popping up everywhere, the different things that are going on. So just thank you to her and her team, because it really finally seems to see that we're going to get some shovels in the ground and some housing and many other things. So thank you to her and her crew for the work that they do.
You got something? Anything? Oh. Jerry, you're going to talk later? You don't? Any questions for Jerry aside from budget, which he'll talk about? Okay. Recreation. Questions for Frank? I assume you got volunteer names in? Tomorrow's the deadline. And it's not it took me 2 hours to just go ahead.
Special note for Frank, sorry. I've been meaning to send you an email for 2.5 weeks. It's coming, I promise.
Okay, anything else for Frank? We're good? Okay, and the strategic priorities, you didn't need to,
Yeah, I just want to say, I want to remind everyone that we have Gordon McIntosh coming in on the 6th and 7th of May. And so looking forward to digging into all things and working with council to set priorities.
oh, I don't know why I can't see that one. Go ahead.
No.
No, the thing's down, but it's just, yeah,
I don't
go
know.
ahead. It's all right.
Anyway, quick question to the CAO. I note that the airport business plan is on the agenda for next, and it's been there for some time. I'm just wondering if there's been any steps taken in that direction at all, or is it, so under next you have recreation master plan, user fees, leases, and airport business plan, which has been in that position for some time. And I'm just wondering if there's any plans in place to execute that.
It's not for us to execute.
Okay,
It's for the airport to execute.
all right, so there's no steps been taken as far as you know.
I'd say the airport's been busy,
Oh, yeah, it's busy.
but as far as like giving us
Okay,
a,
so are you expecting a document, I guess, or a report in that sense, or a formal business
it's been a
plan?
long time since I spoke to Greg about this, so I
Okay.
don't know if he's even developing a document, to be
Yeah.
honest.
I had the discussion with him earlier this week when we had a meeting, and he just wanted to, I think we both want to clarify that, is this something that we're initiating at the airport, or is it something that CAOs are going to be involved?
Well, it was intended to be something from the airport, but I think I'll have a follow-up conversation with Greg and see where he is in terms of his planning. But at the same time, let's bring it back to the table with Gordon.
Absolutely.
You know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Good? Anyone else? Okay. All right, I guess that's you. I know, you were just chomping at the bit. Turn the mic on.
There you go. I do have a proposal with some suggestions of changes to where we were a week or so ago. Apologize for not being on the agenda. It's hot off the press a couple hours ago. And it's going to be interesting seeing other items on the agenda that I've noticed and have just been discussed. So we'll get through it.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I'd just like to walk you through what happened in the last week or 10 days since the first budget discussion we had. Again, I did go through all the operating budgets, had a few discussions with different managers, directors, came up with probably 100 or closer to 200,000 in what I challenged for increases of expenses. But after discussions and some good input and feedback, narrowed it down to about 140,000 in the operating budget that we cut through different, various lines that we can get through. So on the first page, just want to show that we started with a loss of 425,000. We'd like to have a budgeted surplus, of at least 70,000. I know the last few years we've been budgeting 5 and 15, but a little caution going that low this year in particular. You'll see in the future pages where we might be sitting for the current year. Of course, it's not yet complete, but we spent, probably $200,000 more in snow removal than we had budgeted because of the winter we had. Now, we don't budget for worst case, but we do need to increase those budgets. And when those things happen, we just don't have any surplus to maneuver. We also spent money on some festivals and playgrounds that weren't budgeted initially, along with some legal fees that we had, unexpected, cost us around $80,000 in one legal fight itself. So when those things happen, we just don't have a surplus to fall back on. So even 70,000 is not large, but from my perspective, it's a giant step forward from the 5 and 15,000 we've budgeted the last few years. So in the end, I started looking for about $495,000. So I went through general government. A couple things did happen in the last week that I wasn't aware of and came to my attention, so had to actually budget them in. So you'll see there's a couple of studies and some strategic planning that's already been booked and planned. So I had to put those in the budget. But I also just reduced some other accounts within general government. Worked with the fire chief. We certainly had more than 18,000. I identified more than 18,000. He's talked me down to about 18,000 in reductions in his budget. Things like a little bit of overtime, some radio repairs, and some training and clothing. Again, with Public Works, went through that. Certainly identified more than 15,000 in there, but at the same time, even though sidewalk, curb replacement, and equipment replacement, we've knocked those down 5,000. We are budgeting more than last year, but I will admit, the director's gone through it, and the full amount that he wanted isn't unrealistic.
So these numbers, I was trying to make a match. So these numbers are what you took out?
These are what we've taken out.
On the left, and then they add up, each section? Okay.
Yep.
I'm trying to figure out how $5,000 was 10,000 more than last year.
Oh, okay, the 5,000s are what we've taken out. So a total of 15 out of his budget from the starting point.
Gotcha.
So the same with environmental health, taking some maintenance out. Environmental health, that's the wastewater plant, basically is where that line is. And there's a lot of pumps, those types of pieces of equipment that got replaced, and they're like 5,000 and 6,000 each. And unfortunately, they're all roughly the same age, so they're all kind of failing at the same time. So, we always keep a couple in spares. So when things do fail, we can have them on hand, but we're trying to do a replacement program so we don't end up with 5 or 6 failing at once. But still, budgeting 25 more than last year, but reduced it by 10,000 of what the request was. Compost, when I looked at that, we have new leases, and we did just over budget at 13.5, so I was able to reduce that. In the parks, again, here's one that's interesting. Looked at the Beacon Park, was quite a large increase. In the end, said we could reduce it by 10,000, but in that 10,000 was actually the painting of the gazebo, which I think is next on your agenda. So there's some things to consider still in here. Doug Melanson Park, that 13,000, that was a project a couple of years ago. I think we applied for a beautification grant, it didn't come through, and last year we left the money in thinking that we might do it again, but so this year just I've taken it out.
There was just a release of park funds. Did you read that? In all Nova Scotia?
Sorry. Your Worship, if you're referring to the PCAP, I read an article where they collapsed 3 programs into one, the Provincial Capital Assistance Program. I didn't notice anything about parks. I may have missed it.
Okay.
So then we moved on. I went through waterfront, identified another 9,000 there we could reduce. And in the planning contract, worked with the director there, and made some significant cuts to what kind of their thoughts and plans were, but we just don't have the money for that right now. So we still left some money in those budgets, but certainly took out some bigger projects and bigger studies that they were hoping to do. In the end, 141,000 in total reductions through the director's budgets, operating budgets. In addition to that, I went through the revenue lines and I increased interest on arrears, increased sales of services, and we agreed to pull in 85,000 from a reserve to help offset the garbage rate increase that would have had to happen. So we'll leave that at 205 because of the 85 there. And then also Just in the last week, a couple of staff vacancies are currently open, so went through those and a little tweaked, saying it's going to be 3 months before we hire this person, another 4 months before we hire that person, so I pulled any salaries out of those lines that we could, knowing that they're vacant, and they will be vacant for a few months. So I pulled about $38,000 out of payroll. So a couple of interesting ones coming up for you folks. All the things that I've talked to and so far are things I feel like we can do. Talked with directors. I'm comfortable with a bit of revenue increases, those types of things. But now we're into a rate increase. So the Waste Park is going to do a 5% rate increase for their tipping fees, effective in September. Maybe give a second look at what we do with the compost fees. It's probably the easiest thing for communication and everything else, just to turn around and say, let's do a 5% increase in our compost fees as well. So that would be in September. So it equates to about a 2.5%, because it's half the year. So it's only $15,000 increase in revenue this year, but it will help in future years. The other thing that I've done in here is to make this work, it's a 1% tax increase. So again, residential units were capped at 1.5. So if we do a 1% increase on the tax rate, it would be a total of 2.5. Now again, we've changed our policies for low-income assistance, so people in need certainly more and more qualify with higher incomes, so we do have that kind of help out there for those that are struggling meeting the day-to-day, but this would end up being, on average, a 2.5% increase of taxes between the assessment and the tax rate. On the commercial side, overall, we had a 1% increase in our assessment. So an additional 1%. So commercial taxes would be up by 2% for the year. So I think when people look at regular utilities, bills, and those types of things, 2 and 2.5% isn't unreasonable. I'm not one typically to come here and say we need a tax rate increase, but capping it at 1.5, when all of our expenses are insurance, chemicals, all those types of things are not held at 1.5%, that's for sure. So again, a 1% tax increase, and then reduced funding. And I'm not set on these amounts on any particular organization, but in total, I reduced the funding for those three organizations by $41,000. So if there's a review done and, say that the airport could end up being $15,000, well, that's fine, and then we do, less for the other ones, or it's just an additional 5. So, but in the end, I'm looking for $41,000 in reductions of those funding partners to make the budget work.
Just to be clear, that's not actually a reduction in their budget, it's a reduction on the ask.
It's a reduction on the ask. Yeah, sorry.
Wait a minute. So does that mean is this the ask to us? So YASTA, for example, that'd be 20, 40, $63,000?
Yeah, and I picked that 21 because that's the one-time extra funding that they were looking for.
Yeah, and whatever the number is, but is that a chat with our neighbors? Okay. Yeah.
But just to verify for you, that still leaves the YASTA ask at 116 when last year the budget was 95. So it's still 20,000 more than last year. 10 less on the Mariner Center. Again, it's still, we budgeted 315 last year, and we're now going to budget 341. The ask was 351. And the airport would be, last year was a $200,000 budget. We're now at 257, and that's with the 10,000 reduction, so the ask was 267. So again, we can talk with our partners, and if it ends up being a little bit different amounts, that's fine, but overall, I would be looking at 41,000 between the three to make this all balance out as is. Now, Need your help on those, need your help on rate increases. The other adjustments, I think I'm comfortable enough making. I mean, I've said it before in prior years. I can look at this budget tomorrow and I can look at it next Tuesday and I'll find other things that we should change. But it's just a matter of, that's what budgets are. And at this point in time, you say, this is what we got. The next page, the one with the columns, looking like our income statement, that's an expansion of what I gave you earlier with the discussion report. I just inserted a couple columns to show. So B and C were the initial draft budgets that we had, and I presented last week. D and E and F are the three new columns, kind of showing you what the draft budget now looks like and the change on there. So I guess it's interesting, one thing I will point out and need to, something to consider, I guess, and realize and understand is that in the current year, we don't have an increase in our RCMP budget. Again, last year we had the extra $254,000 as a one-time lump sum payment for the retro pay from the prior agreement. So the last 2 years we paid an extra $250,000. So this coming year of 25-26, we do not pay that. So in essence, we've budgeted $250,000 more than last year for regular operations, but it's still a little bit less than what we paid last year. So that's why when you look at protective services in line 10, if you go way over to the right, I say RCMP 0. Well, it's because that lump sum payment's not necessary in the next year.
Okay.
So that's just one of those things that helped. So it certainly brings down an overall increase of 4.7 for revenues without, I made a little note to the right in that's shaded, without the HAF money and without the reserve for transfer, it's actually a 3.5% increase in revenues. And the same with total expenses in line 16 over to the very right. Without the HAF money, it's 3.67. So overall, 3.5% increase in our revenues and expenses. The next page is just showing you that, this is straight off our accounting software to show you that that's where we are. With those changes in there, with the tax rate increase, with the compost rate increase, with the reduction to our funding organizations, we'd have a budget surplus of 70, but last year we had 15. The year-to-date actual, again, it shows 576 today. We're not done our audit, there's still a lot of work. I know there's a couple entries that are yet to be done that'll probably eat about 200,000 of that. I'm not sure if we'll get back to a surplus amount or we'll end up with a bit of a deficit in the current year, but that work is just ongoing, but that's where it sits as of today. After that, I did provide you with a little bit more detail, and that's like the next level, so it's departmental summary, so that one pager off our system just shows a little more breakdown, about 4 times as much because it's 4 pages instead of 1. But I mean, if you're interested in going through a little more detail, you can see where some variances and changes are. So we don't need to go through, and I'm not looking to extend today's meeting longer. We have another meeting booked for next week, but this is something to think about. Again, I hope if anyone has any questions or is unclear what's in or not in, please let me know. Oh, I should say, based with the presentation we just had, there are no new staff positions in this budget. I know we've had discussions of possibly having some of the senior safety stuff done by current staff, but I'm not sure how much can be done there if it's truly a full-time position because current staff are doing work as, today. So this would be in addition to what they do.
Go ahead, Gil.
Oh, thank you. 2 quick questions. One is, council made a recommendation to refer, I think, $10,000 to the tree program the tree planting program. Would that just be included in the parks budget, or?
Yeah, it's actually, I thought it was 5,000. I know there's 5,000 in there for a tree program.
Yeah, there was a motion passed, I believe, that it was increased to 10,
Okay.
because we didn't use it last year, and they wanted to, and I think the recommendation was to try and boost it this year, and, pardon? Yes, okay, I'll leave that there. The second is, where would I find, maybe this is my fault, but where would I find the communities in Bloom? Typically, they have a budget in the area of about 15,000, I think?
Yep, that's in the parks budget as well.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, if you're looking for details, I can certainly.
No, that's fine, I just want to make sure it's somewhere in there. Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead, Derek.
I think I just heard you say that there is no money for senior safety in this budget.
There's no new positions, there's no new staff positions in this budget. I know we've had discussions about, I don't know how much Jeff wants to talk
I can
about it.
address that.
Okay, thank you.
So when we had a discussion back in February, Councillor Lesser made a comment about the capacity internally. Perhaps there might be somebody who could do that work if council decided to proceed. And I didn't immediately occur to me where we might find that capacity, but since an opportunity has become clear to me, so if council does decide to move forward with that, I think we can probably find a human resource internally that would provide north of 50% of an FTE for that work. So as a starting point, I think that would be probably enough. And time would tell whether or not we need to rethink that in a year's time. But so if council does decide to move forward with that, I would have a specific recommendation on that, or decision, or a recommendation how we could do it within the current budget. But that's, I think that's probably all I need to say on that.
Thank you, Your Worship. Does anybody know what the CPI is for this past year, like Consumer Price Index? Do you know how much it's gone up? I mean, it's come down a lot, but it's still.
Trying to think, was it 2.6 or 2.7, somewhere in there?
Yeah. So the tax increase that's being proposed is within CPI?
2.3.
Yeah.
2.3? Okay.
In 2024.
Yeah, well, 20, yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, I think the cap, they just pick a month, Jeff. And it's like,
Yeah.
1.5.
Yeah, so there's a little difference between how our assessments are capped, what CPI they use, and what CPI we use when we talk about things like wages. So they take the month of November, where the index is 1 year, and where it is the month of November the next year, and it's that difference on a percentage basis that they use to cap assessments. What we do is we take the difference each month of the 12 months and we average it. And that's typically the way you do it when you're incurring an expense throughout the year, is you use the full year's data to calculate your CPI.
Go ahead.
Hi. If this isn't a question for here, let me know and I'll retract. So you mentioned if we decided to go through with that, when would that decision be made? And how soon can we expect a senior safety coordinator to be up and running?
So,
I'll just start by saying the only reason we don't do it today is we don't make a decision.
Yeah, no, I
day of
know.
the. And then you can give the timeline.
okay, so my thought, and we talked about this briefly earlier, is we are scheduled to meet next Tuesday for another budget meeting. And so I think that would be an appropriate time to bring that back to the budget, back to the agenda, and you can have a discussion, and if there's direction to incorporate, there might be some overhead expenses, whatnot, then we'll get to work on it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, there's lots of, like I say, I can look at it tomorrow and I'll see things. And I know I got an email late Friday, it's not in here, from Todd, our parks manager, but he also manages our buildings. He said he went and got a quote to redo our doors here. So we don't have any money to do the doors here, but his quote is $26,000. But that was, had to do and came up with the whole EDI committee and that kind of stuff. It's like, well, we can refer to next year's budget, but that's 12 months away. Like, but those are the decisions that staff, managers are needing to make, because like, I just can't keep saying yes to $25,000 and $30,000 projects this year. Like, learning from the past, what's happening, you just don't know what's going to happen. So we just can't continue to say, yeah, we'll figure it out. But, we've been able to in the past, but doesn't, you know, it's tight. That's all. It's bottom line.
So when do we have the budget next week?
Next Tuesday, we have a meeting, supposedly.
It probably is. I just can't see it. Yeah, no, it's not. Okay. What? Wait, like at 3:30? Okay. I just don't have it. I might have just said no because I'm away. I have NSFM. You're gone too? Yeah. 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 So we're going to have to change that.
Okay, well, we'll find another time.
What's that? I'm good Monday. You're committed Monday? Sure.
We're together a couple of evenings that week anyways.
Listen, we need to do our strategic planning before we say yes to everything, so, really. So any more, oh, sorry, go ahead there, Deputy.
So I noticed our tax grant budget is $200,000. Just wondering where that number comes from, or if there was any thought of maybe hauling $10,000 from here or there, or,
So the tax grants?
yeah, the one that we give for property grants?
Right, yeah, that's been the set amount for the last few years, that's all.
Okay.
One thing I've thought about, and, you know, it might be something that we can do in future budgets, is, you know, like we did the grants to organizations, we said it's 1 cent on the taxes. I mean, if we can figure out what an appropriate level is for some of our joint ventures, I mean, it wouldn't apply to all three, but in our case, we could say, you know, our funding is going to be, you know, the Mariner Center might be 6 cents of the tax rate, and you know, Yasta is 1.5 cents, and those type of things. So when we go in future years and say there's an increase in funding requested, it kind of means like, well, all those things added up, that's an extra penny on the tax rate. Like, so when we do that, these are funding decisions that we make. Like I say, it's just not, and Jeff and I have talked about it, it's kind of unfair to say, you know, directors go and slash your budgets, and we don't have the same, I don't have the same scrutiny on other funding organizations that we do.
Okay.
But I can give you some stuff next week or the next meeting on some thoughts on that, but that would be more of a future type of thing to do.
Okay. So we're looking for how much?
Well, the proposal in front of you works, but like I said, it includes some rate increases, both on the compost fee and on a 1% tax rate increase. And also looking for, between the three units that we fund, about a $41,000 reduction from their current asks.
Okay. How much does that cover?
What's that?
How much does that cover? Like, what if we go home and we look at this and we say, you know what? I don't like this, or maybe we could change that.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's,
How much are we looking for?
well, the rate increase is 155 and the reduced funding is 41, so there's 196,000.
Okay, that's what
There.
I mean. So we're looking for around 200,000.
Well, that's, yeah, I would need your approval on that, those two amounts in particular to say this works. I think, between myself and the directors, if we need to, we can live with the reductions that we made within our budgets.
Yeah, I guess what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, what if we go home and we're kind of looking at this, it works,
No,
but is it right? Like,
no, I know, I mean,
Yeah.
we can move things around, but
yeah, okay,
if we take 10 out, we got to put 10 back kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
yeah, okay. All right, so we're good? Any more questions for Jerry?
Like I say, I can print the detailed report, the GL detail report. I didn't do it today because it's 26 pages. But if someone wants it, it's just support and matches up with the numbers that are provided today. So if you want it, I can print a few. Just let me know.
I do. Who wants one? I definitely do. And you see detail.
4 or 5.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Beacon Park Bandstand.
So, Your Worship, there was a motion of council to paint the bandstand with pride, in pride fashion or pride colors. I requested a concept from a local artist, and that concept is attached in 2 PDFs. I asked council for feedback. I received a couple of comments. I was asked by, I think, Councillor Lesser if it would be appropriate to take it to the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, which sounded about right. He did. They came back, and unbeknownst to me, my ignorance, there's actually an order to the colors. So as was in the concept, the colors were painted in stripes up the pillars. They weren't in the proper order. So that would be a change that we would ask that be made if it were to be painted. But I wanted to be clear with council before going any further if we were okay with the design, or if there were other suggestions to be made before we say go. And I'll point out that the Director of Finance just indicated that if we are going to do this, then there's another budget adjustment that will need to be made, and further discussion there. So I guess the Director of Finance and I have to talk about the agenda before we get in the meeting. But anyway, I was looking for a green light or a yellow light or a red light on the design.
Oh, there.
sorry. The other part of that they talked about, because the committee came up with the colors and debated, I think, Steve, for probably close to an hour about the color scheme. But it is also BIPOC. It does include people of color as well. So it's not just Pride that's included. So
Thank you. Go ahead.
I think that's significant in a big way. I honestly love it. And I honestly have to admit, almost as a confession, that's the first time I'm seeing it is today. There's been a lot going on and I haven't taken a look, but it's spectacular. And the look of the hands together that would go into the ceiling it's stunning. And I think it's really representative of who Yarmouth is as a town and what the region is. And it does mean a lot. Now, money is a different issue, but in terms of design, I think it's spectacular.
Okay, anyone else? What are you looking for? Okay for design? We just have to decide, we're going to come back and decide if
Yeah, I think there's two questions. And one is, are we okay with the design? And the second one is the decision I think you need to defer until you settle on the budget, which is, is the money going to be in the budget to go ahead and do that this year? As I say, we should have talked maybe earlier together, but I wanted to get the at least the green light on the design. So let's focus on the design, not the money in this conversation, and you'll have a later conversation about the money and whether or not we're going to actually proceed.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd make a motion that council accept the recommendations of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee with regards to the design of painting the Beacon Park bandstand.
Moved and seconded. And that was, oh yeah, that includes like the color changes and the orders. Yeah, okay. All right, we good? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you.
Your Worship, I wasn't on my toes when you called for changes to the agenda. The next item, the Heritage Officer, I'd request we remove that from the agenda today and deal with it next month.
All right. Tax grants, so they're due no later than May the 1st.
I guess I have a couple questions looking over the sheets, and I guess as we're going through this, and I don't know if we're going to do some of this together at some point as well, or how that's going to work, but there are some that applied for the grant, funding grant and tax grant as well. I think so. And some applied for more money than their taxes than their actual taxes were. And the third question, I think Lindsay already answered, just to make sure that everybody has met the criteria to get them in. And then I guess the fourth question is one that we talk about often is, have they asked other levels of government for money as well? So I guess those are questions I would like to try to understand before.
I think we'll probably have an opportunity to talk about this. Did you want to say something?
Yeah. All I wanted to say, really, with regard to the first two questions about being able to apply for tax grant as well as operating grant. Number two was asking for more than, in the tax grant, more than the current year's estimate of taxes. Lindsay and I saw those questions come in, and we reviewed not only the policy that we currently have, but we reviewed some of the discussion that council had in developing that policy, and neither of those items were covered off. And so it really is then up to you as a counselor, as individual counselors, to determine the answer to those questions on your own or collectively through discussion. But it's not guided in policy. Okay. The other question, sorry. Okay, I'll shut off my mic.
Sorry, it was around if people have, if they've reached out to other levels of government as well, if they're, not just something that's in town, are they, I know it's on the applications when you look at them, it does say, are you applying, the municipality or whatever, so.
Yeah, so it is there, but again, it isn't a requirement in policy. So again, something for you to look at and consider in your deliberations.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one question with regards to to help me formulate my thinking with regards to the tax grants. When the provincial infrastructure that we have in town, the hospital, schools, things like that, am I right that we get a grant in lieu of taxation for that infrastructure?
Happy wish.
So the specific ones you mentioned, the answer would be no.
Okay.
So there are certain infrastructure, and an example, back in early 2000s, courthouses fell within the same list as schools and hospitals that were not eligible for the grant in lieu. Courthouses became
Eligible.
So we do get a grant in lieu for a courthouse. We do get a grant in lieu for the office building on Stars Road.
Right.
But certain provincial infrastructure is not funded in the grant in lieu program.
Okay, so that makes it a little more complicated. I'm thinking of third-party agencies that really deliver provincial services, and the expectation of us to fund the tax bill for those agencies. Just trying to figure that through in my head with regards to, the tax grant. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
We have that conversation often. See his face. I don't stay very calm. We're pretty, towns are all very compact. We have so much space, and if the money is coming from taxes and everything provincial is not taxed, or most of the stuff is not taxed, we're in trouble. And then, yeah. So, we'll have a chance we'll have a chance to talk about this. Like, to me, these are it's a grant. Doesn't matter if it's a tax grant or a different kind of grant. It's a grant. For me, it should be on one piece of paper. Here's what we're asking for. It's something you have to pay. But anyway. Okay, so the spring organization grants, same thing. Good. Fire inspection policy.
The May 1st deadline for tax grants has to do with, so it just hasn't started approving on the accounts. We want to get them approved before the deadline, when your tax bills due, because it's due May 30th, right? So we want them approved before that. Organizational grants could be approved June, cancel it, that's easier.
Everybody hear that?
Yeah.
So fire inspection policy. Oh, I'm sorry.
On that, I actually went through and did a first draft of that, knowing that the deadline was coming up. I just wasn't sure the questions that we just got answered and now that I think they're answered enough that we can make those judgments. I think I'll just do a bit of tweaking, and I think I can get it from May 1st if that helps. So.
I didn't see anything by fire inspection policy. Or am I on the wrong page? What's that? Oh, yes. Oh, speaking of thank you. It's not? While you're finding that, go ahead.
Yeah, so there is a revised fire inspection policy that the fire inspector created, and I'll point out he is present and willing to speak. So there's a draft policy. There's also with the amendments redlined within there. And there's also a memo that I asked him to create to kind of explain the amendments as he's recommending them. And David is here if anyone from council has any questions or needs clarification from the inspector.
Go ahead.
No, I thought it was very clear. And I think they were almost more like housekeeping items and clarifying language. So I think it's a good job. And I'd make a motion that we accept it as presented.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion, questions while he's here? Go ahead.
Just one, on the 4-unit, I thought it was, wasn't it auto, before, wasn't it 4-unit, like last year, if it was, so I was talking about a 4-unit residential, and then it's crossed out from 3-unit, but I thought last year, we talked about that at one point, I thought all 4 units were inspected, and garbage removal, I think, had to be commercial, I don't know.
Fire inspector, come on down.
Thank you. Am I correct? You're questioning the number of units that are required to be inspected?
Yeah.
So it would be anything that's 4 units and larger?
So was it 4 last year? Like it says 3 in here, but I thought last year at one point, it was a discussion we had that at 4, it happens automatically and...
It's more than 3, anything more than 3.
Okay.
And I just aligned it with what the provincial regulations actually state.
Okay.
Just so that it's consistent.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Anyone else? Ready for the question? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, West Pubnico Golf Association request. I think we were looking for more information on that one for some reason.
Yeah, Your Worship, I asked this be on the agenda so there was full awareness of council that this request was out there. We have requested some additional information, and we'll also talk to our neighbors about their intentions, and we'll bring this back, but I didn't want it to not be on your agenda or you not to be aware of it, that it's out there. And if there are any, based on what we have so far, if there are any questions or direction that you want to give staff, we're certainly open to that. But we're trying to get a better, a budget plan, something that's easier to look at the revenue, all the revenues that they're anticipating, and all the expenses sort of combined on a spreadsheet that we can deal with.
So do you need us to do anything with this? Okay, all right. Okay, so there's correspondence there. I don't think there was anything that we had to do anything with. Yeah. Mariner Center Ice Pad. Oh, sorry.
No, I just wanted to say, just for council's benefit, I have requested some information on the fire services review, including the terms of reference and who's conducting. It seemed that it begged for some questions when we got the letter from 2 ministers, but it is a third-party organization that's carrying out the review. That there obviously is some coordination, maybe some partnership. So I was just curious. And once I have that information, I'll share it with council.
Okay. I don't know where that went now. Might be just here. So remember I mentioned that, or you said PCAP. So we did get that. Lindsay forwarded that to us yesterday. So the $1 million, an additional $1 million to the PCAP for 2025-26 goes from $690,000 to the $1.69 million. I don't know who goes after that money, but I know we got money last year from it, or I thought we did.
Yeah, so one of the things you'll notice that they did is they've eliminated a separate beautification program and streetscaping program, and the community works program, and just rolled that all into PCAP, put the funding all into PCAP.
Okay. So who looks at this stuff? Like this 1.69 million, who looks at this for us and says, we need to go after some money?
Tiana.
Oh, right.
Right, so Tiana does the grant work, but she talks to the directors, and they have a list, and the rule right now, and this is where Jerry and I are definitely on the same page, is that we're not looking for new projects and new ideas because there's money. What we're looking for is how to use the money to do the projects we already have on our list.
Yeah, okay. All right, good. So, nothing else, motion to go in camera. What's that? Oh, yeah, that's right, ice pad.
Right, so there was an email circulated from the chair of Mariner Center, and they have a project they need to schedule, which is the replacement, the rebuilding of the ice pad in Arena 1. And so the plan is to do that work in the off-season 2026. In order to successfully do that, there's some design work and preparation of tender documents needs to be done. That they're estimating $50,000 to do that work. That's part of the $2 million budget. What they're asking is if the councils can forward in this fiscal year $50,000 so that when we get to next fiscal year, there's not a question, their documents are ready, it's already been tendered, and when the Mariners win their championship, immediately thereafter, they can get to work and start replacing the ice pad.
I like how you worded it.
When? So is this,
So we can manage this. It's a cash flow. It's not an additional ask, but it's
Oh,
a cash flow matter. And our portion of this will be somewhere in the area of $15,000. So we can manage that.
I thought it was 50 each.
No. Am I wrong about that?
Well, let's find her. Oh, Lindsay's on it.
Because it's 2 to 3 units. Formally request to draw $50,000 from the approved $2 million budget.
Yeah, the approved $2 million budget is 3, as is the
Oh.
50. So it's like 15 from us.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Okay, that was easy, that's even easier. Yep. Okay, what's the motion? No, I'm just joking.
I'll let the CAO word the motion that I'm prepared to make.
I used to have to, you would say the motion, and then I'd have to repeat it, and I'm like, oh, say that again. Okay, are we good on the motion? You know what, I mean, it's just, yeah, okay. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. All right, good. Motion to go in camera. Thank you.